Okay, good day everyone. Namo MyoHoRenGeKyo. I hope this video finds you well and healthy. If not, I hope it helps you on your road to return to health. The Go Show we'll be reading today, I'm not sure if we'll get through it, but it's not very long, as some are. But this letter, Nichiren wrote, speaking on the three kinds of treasure. There's a lot of 3s, 5s, 7s, 9s, a lot of odd numbers in Buddhism. I think that's a feature of our samsaric existence, and our concept of time. But be that as it may, this is a subject, I think, Byron, you brought this up recently, so I hope you're paying attention. To all of those who are supporting this channel, however you can, deep gratitude. I usually say something to that effect at the end of these videos. I thought I'd switch it up a little bit, in case maybe you don't make it to the end all the time. Anyway, just want to acknowledge all of you guys, those of you who are just are able to watch these videos and participate, those who offer comments, those who can actually financially support this effort through Patreon or through PayPal at, what is that, paypal.me.com/SifuSylvain. That's just a direct link. You know, you don't have to have money to watch this. This is all about your practice and strengthening your practice, and consequently, our Sangha. So we are all enriched by your participation and your support. So on behalf of everyone, thank you. Now, let's get to the Go Show. The three kinds of treasure. I have received various articles from your messenger, including a white quilted robe and a string of coins, and the goods mentioned in Toki's letter. The persimmons, pears, and fresh and dried seaweed are particularly welcome. So, as is often the case in these letters to his followers of different station, he's always first and foremost to acknowledge their offerings, to not only keep him alive, but to keep him acting as a votary of the Lotus Sutra, their teacher, if you will, their guidance counselor in Shakyamuni Buddhism, right? So, once he acknowledges what he's received, he needs to send his messenger back not only with thanks, but because it's his responsibility, especially after receiving offerings, to offer some words of advice and wisdom, usually tailored to the specific person or persons that he's communicating to, returning communications to. Other times, as you know, he delivers long sermons, basically, on doctrine and scholarship and teaching, because the letter is then to be used as a treatise or teaching tool, more specifically, to be distributed amongst the Sangha. This is a more personal nature, but because this letter is written to, is it Toki Jonin? Who is this written to? Ninth month, Minobu, Shijo Nakatsukasa Saburo Simon Nojo Yoritomo, commonly known as Shijo Kingo. So we've read several communications with Shijo Kingo. We know that he's struggled with fellow samurais and underlings trying to depose him, get him out of the boss's favor, and overthrow him. But he's very important to Lord Emma, not only as a samurai and a leader, even though he doesn't practice the same school of Buddhism. And I've talked about that at length, so I won't go into it here. But he's also, as we've also discussed, a master of medicines of the time. So Shijo Kingo is quite important to Lord Emma. And because he's a leader within such a high-ranking place and an influence to the other samurais who evidently see this as a challenge, so they keep trying to harm him in some way. Nichiren is very open about giving Shijo Kingo lots and lots of scholarship about the practice of Buddhism, especially as would apply to his specific situation. So this is one of those letters that kind of crosses the line between a personal teaching, a personal advice, a personal thanks, and always with some sort of scholarship, to a little bit more lengthy description and doctrinal investigation, because Shijo Kingo will be seen as a teacher as well. So he's not simply a follower of Nichiren's, but he's also, as we all do in the Lotus Sutra, learn to become bodhisattvas, examples and teachers of Buddhism itself. So I'm excited to see what we're going to talk about here. And in fact, we are talking about Lord Emma's illness once again. Here we go. I am most grieved over your Lord's illness. Although he has not professed resolute mind and conviction in the Lotus Sutra, he's still a Nembutsu follower, you are a member of his clan, and it is thanks to his consideration that you are able to make offerings to the sutra. Thus, these may become meditations solely for your Lord's recovery. Think of a small tree under a large one, or grass by a great river. Though they do not receive rain or water directly, they nonetheless thrive, partaking of the dew from the large tree or drawing moisture from the river. So this is how he views Shijo Kingo's existence. And not to mean that he's callous, that he doesn't give a crap about Lord Emma except for his support of Shijo Kingo. But he's quick to point out, you're dealing with samurai here in an age of feudalism and serfs and authoritarianism and very strict fascist, really, authoritarianism, where, the samurai are paid assassins after all. So what I'm saying is usually their thoughts about things are very black and white. There's very little gray. And so Nichiren is trying to insert a wedge in there and say, it's not so black and white. And you have a lot to be thankful for, even though your position may seem very precarious. Don't forget, in the Bushido Code, samurais woke every morning anticipating death in that day. This was part of their fundamental understanding of their life in service to their lord. So there's a lot of, just chew on that for a minute and see if it doesn't change the way you see the world at large. So he goes on, the same holds true with the relationship between you and your lord, like the grass by the river or the smaller trees under the large ones, right? To give another example, King Ajatashatru was an enemy of the Buddha. But because Jivaka, a minister in the king's court, believed in the Buddha and continually, or was strongly influenced by the Buddha and continually made offerings to him, the rewards accruing from his actions are said to have returned to Ajatashatru, which I'll remind you if you don't remember the story. He was diagnosed with an illness that was fatal and going to shorten his life tremendously. And after he took resolve in the Buddha's teachings, the illness went away and he actually lived 40 more years. So, again, an example of reward in this life, right, in samsara. Buddhism teaches that when the Buddha nature manifests itself from within, because nobody can give it to you, you can't bathe in it, the only way you can attain your Buddhahood is through your own mind, through your own effort. It will receive protection from without, because, again, the duality of samsara is an illusion. Our environment and whatever we perceive coming of it is actually a dimension of ourselves. That environment that you experience is yours. And so if you influence your mind, you influence your environment, and your environment responds. People that would be bad influences sort of migrate away from your life, and new people appear who are supportive of your life. Things like that are not accidental. They are a manifestation of your life state, your mind state. So Buddhism points this out constantly, but I'm afraid that a way, and I fault a little bit the translations into the Western idioms here, but this point is often lost when we read through these things. It's very important to remember that self isn't just a bag of Bob or Betty, right? It's a bag of Bob with an entire, you staying with the bag analogy, landfill, if you will, of Bob. Because Bob's environment is just as much Bob as you may see Bob to be. The self is a much more expansive thing than the simple human unit vehicle that we use to carry our mind around. Our mind far transcends our physical existence. And that's where the self is, not here in this hand and body. Okay. This is one of the fundamental principles of Buddhism, so no mistake that I picked up on that and want to make sure you get it. The Lotus Sutra says, quote, I have profound reverence for you. The Nirvana Sutra says, all living beings alike possess the Buddha nature, end quote. Bodhisattva Ashvagosha, Awakening of Resolute Mind and Conviction in the Mahayana says, quote, because the true abiding law invariably permeates one's life and exerts its influence, illusions are instantly extinguished, and the Dharma body manifests itself. And that Dharma body is what I was fumbling through explaining. The Dharma body is not this body. It is this body, along with the body as it exists throughout the universe. The trees, the grass, the earth, the home, the mate, right? Wife, child, husband, friends, employer, all of them are manifestations of your human body used as a container term for your samsaric experience. And you must admit that your experience far exceeds your body. But if you embody that experience as a body, using it as an analog, you will understand in Buddhism when we talk about this Dharma body. And the reward body being that realization of that embodiment of what you actually are, representing this without beginning or end, this life force, this process of which you are an instantiation. That body far transcends and is far more massive than anything this little human body could conjure or act upon, right? So it's all about mind. Remember, Buddhism is about mental perception. Bodhisattva Maitreya's treatise on the stages of yoga practice contains a similar statement. What is hidden turns into manifest virtue. And hidden in this case wouldn't be like hiding or seek. Well, from the mind it would be. They are realizations that we don't carry around in our minds all day long. We tend to become very centric in our thinking, very insular in this minimal experience of I and self. When we start to think more consistently in terms of ourself as influence and being influenced from all perception, now we're thinking of a much more expansive idea of what is self. It's no longer this thing, this body. it's a much more important, influential cog in a much larger process. And we're starting to work our way toward awakening and Buddhahood, right? The heavenly devil, negative influence, knew about this form before, and he therefore possessed your colleagues, your environment, causing them to invent that preposterous lie in order to prevent you from making offerings to the Lotus Sutra, right? Where again, we're talking, this is the third or fourth letter where we're in some way addressing this, this great lie purported by other samurai. Remember reporting that Shijo Kingo was disruptive at a debate and that he ridiculed the debater. I think it was not Ryokan, but one of his minions, Ryusho, or sorry, I'm not that great with names. But in fact, it was Sami Bo who was at the debate, and he was very formal and not disruptive. But because there was no internet then, and there was no so the samurais that were there, or the other retainers that were there, could easily say, well, there's going to be word of this spreading throughout the land. Let's get ahead of it and blame it all on Shijo so we can get his land and his prestige and get him kicked out, and put in Lord Emma's bad, get him out of his favors so we can take over his position. And then in response, Lord Emma heard all of this, and he asked Shijo Kingo to write a declaration, an oath that he would stop practicing or following Nichiren, that he would enter the fold with the Nembutsu, so he wouldn't be so problematic anymore, and he was going to take some of his land, and so on and so forth. He was going to punish Shijo Kingo. And then he fell ill, and then he called Shijo Kingo, you got to fix me here, blah, blah, blah. And he got better. And so he thought, well, forget everything I said. You're fine, Shijo. And so even though they tried to assail him, these others, it didn't work. And so Nichiren uses that example from Shijo Kingo's life in many ways, reminding him, not least of which, that in this way, because he practices correctly and he doesn't lose his resolute mind, the universe, his world, protects him. And it's because of his mental attitude. And how it protects him isn't predictable. It simply happens. And so you can't forget those auspicious moments are due to your influence. And don't just think, oof, I got lucky this time. No, you made your luck because of your resolute mind. That's a very, very important lesson, and I think it's easily missed as you and I read through this stuff, that's what Nichiren's pointing out. Since your strong mind of determination and conviction is profound, however, the 10 demon daughters must have come to your aid and caused your lord's illness. So not only was your opportunity to help your master, your boss, but the very fact that he got sick to precipitate this mind-changing, mind-altering decision to help you out may have come from your practice. That's a little bit auspicious. It would be easy to interpret that as having some kind of power. But I caution you, don't go there. That's not what these analogies are about. They're about remaining true to your true identity, your Buddha nature. And whatever needs to happen in your environment to support that will occur. That doesn't mean you have the power to make somebody sick so your life can get better. So don't take it like that, okay? He does not regard you as his enemy anymore, but since he once acted against you by giving credit to false accusations of your colleagues, he has become seriously ill and the malady persists. So that kind of demystifies this a little bit, because just as much as Shijo Kingo is responsible by his own steadfastness to change his circumstance, even though he's being assailed, So is Lord Emma, even though he's not practicing correctly. He's practicing a school of Buddhism, but he's not practicing correctly. He's not practicing MyoHoRenGeKyo or Lotus Sutra. In fact, he's working against it. But even so, his actions, like all of us, influence his environment and are influenced by his environment. So there's a more complex situation here where Lord Emma brought about his own sickness because of his inadequate practice. His protections are low, like his immune system, his spiritual, his mental immune system is low. But he also has as a retainer who he supports, MyoHoRenGeKyo, whose immune system is high. So as much as Lord Emma's attitude is endangered from his environment because it's an incorrect attitude, he's also influenced by MyoHoRenGeKyo's correct attitude. And that play takes form in the fact that Lord Emma gets sick and MyoHoRenGeKyo is there to bring him back to wellness. So there's constantly this back and forth in Buddhism, demonstrating once again the importance of understanding that our environment is integral to our mental existence, our samsaric existence. Interesting. Ryuzo Bo, and this is the priest whose name I couldn't remember earlier, or the monk, the true word monk. Ryuzo Bo, whom these people count on as their pillar of strength, has already been toppled, and those who spoke falsely of you have contracted the same disease as your Lord. Oh, interesting. Everyone's getting sick. Because Rokan is guilty of much graver offense, it is more than likely that he will meet with or cause a bad accident. Surely he will not escape unharmed, because look at the causes he's making. Sooner or later, his universe, his world, will affect him commensurate with the causes he's making into it. As things stand now, I have a feeling you're in danger. Because, again, your enemies have worked really hard to put you down, and darn it all, you've succeeded in repelling their attack. They're going to be pissed. Okay. Your enemies are sure to make an attempt on your life. In backgammon, wow, that's an old game, if two stones of the same color are placed side by side, they cannot be hit by an opposing stone. A cart, as long as it has two wheels, does not lurch all over the road. Likewise, if two men go together, an enemy hesitates to attack. Therefore, no matter what faults you may find with your younger brothers, do not let them leave you alone even for a moment. So Nichiren's very concerned, as he has been in several letters, that you're walking a fine line, MyoHoRenGeKyo, and I commend you for being of strong mind and remaining resolved to your practice of Lotus Sutra, MyoHoRenGeKyo, letting it be known, more to the point, that he's a follower of Nichiren's doctrine of the Lotus Sutra, in the face of very strong ritual, traditional opposition from this certain class of people, the clan, as it were, not the KKK. So he's reminding him, don't go just because you have a false sense of security for Lord Emma, who's now lavishing all sorts of praise on you for saving his butt. Don't think that you're protected by that. These are earthly matters now. So, yes, your Buddhist practice is immensely powerful, and your Dharma body affords you many gifts of, quote, protection and reward. But also don't be ignorant that you are a samsaric being and you exist in a samsaric reality. So don't be stupid, right? So keep your brothers with you, fellow samurai. just to make you less of a target. Your face bears definite signs of a hot temper. That's something he mentions a lot, right? Well, he's a samurai, but as a samurai, Shijo has a tendency to be emotional and let it get the best of him. So Nichiren is reminding him, but you should know that the heavenly deities will not protect a short-tempered person. In other words, don't be unreasonable. However important they may think he or she is, if you should be killed, even though you might attain Buddhahood, your enemies would be delighted, but we would feel only grief. This would indeed be regrettable. While your foes busy themselves plotting against you, your Lord places greater confidence in you than before. Therefore, although they appear to have quieted down, inwardly they are no doubt seething with hate, right? They are pissed. So you should at all times behave unobtrusively in their presence. Pay greater respect to the other retainers of the clan than you have in the past. Be more congratulatory. Be more, in a way you could say that rubs your success in their faces, but it also makes you less guilty of being arrogant and thinking you're better than us, right? We still have those kinds of silliness today, don't we? For the time being, when the sons of members of the Hojo clan are visiting your lord, refrain from calling on him, even if he should summon you. And this is because of the situation in Japan. It's very, a lot of civil unrest, and when these powerful clans meet, if they see an opportunity to create disturbances and maybe move in on either move in the way of getting deals brokered that are not fair or all-out war, they can use the drama around somebody like Shijo, because make no mistake, all those people's, his fellow samurai and other retainers around him that want to do him harm, they're not just keeping strictly to themselves. They can be plotting with the other clans as well. And, show him to be a traitor, and then you'll have your foot in, and you'll give me a better position, won't you? Because I'll help you take down this one. All of these silly things we see in movies, they're based on human behavior. If the worst, where are we time-wise? Okay, plenty of time. If the worst should happen and your lord should die, your enemies would become masterless and would have nowhere to turn, though they do not seem to consider that fact, right? They're too busy with their egos. They're not considering how vulnerable they're making themselves. If, in fact, Lord Emma if Shijo were not successful in returning him to health, what if he died? Where would they be then? There would be massive internal war, right? Because they wouldn't. Shijo would be next in line, perhaps, and they would not want that to happen. So they're samurai. Kill him, right? There's no one to tell us not to. And then this other clan would see the unrest and the leaderless masses of the regents and go, well, let's go take over that land and those people. We'll make those samurai our stock in our army, and they'll listen to us now. This is the situation. It's an authoritarian, hierarchical society, right? Unreasoning as they are, and again, as Nichiren has pointed out, Buddhahood or Buddhism is reason. So, unreasoning as they are, when they see you report to work more frequently, their hearts are bound to be fired with jealousy and their breath to come in pants. Like an animal, they're looking to strike. And not thinking, unreasoned, right? They're just frothing. If those sons of the Hojo clan or the wives of those in power should inquire about your lord's illness, no matter who the person may be, get down on your knees, place your hands properly, and reply thus, quote, his malady is entirely beyond my poor skill to cure, but no matter how often I decline, he insists that I treat him. Since I am in his service, I cannot help but do so as he says." End quote. "Leave your side locks uncombed and refrain from wearing well-starched court dress, bright quilted robes, or other colorful clothing. Be patient and continue in this way for the time being." So that's interesting. That's an insight into the ritualistic pomp and circumstance of position. In other words, don't make a show of your favor in this Lord's service, in Lord Emma's service. Don't make it when these other clan members or their wives or anybody in their clan ask you, so what are you doing with Lord Emma? He looks like he's dying. Don't be, well, I'm the foremost medicine master around here, and I'm doing everything I can, but, if he's due to die, he's going to die. There's nothing I can do. You don't want to look like you take your position so, I want to say arrogantly, but so pompously. You don't want to make yourself look, and you may very well have a right to do that in every other circumstance. Wear your hair perfect, wear your robes and everything, dignity and everything. Around these people, you want to humble yourself. You want to bring it down a notch or two. And you want to say, look, I'm his servant. I'm doing everything I can. I don't believe that I can save him, but he's my master, so I do as best I can. And maybe it'll work, but I'm just a humble servant, and I'm just doing what I'm told. Otherwise, they'll say, well, Shijokingo killed him, so they'll crucify him, take over the land. You see, any opportunity to allow this kind of opportunity or opportunistic play of politics, right? The same thing the head priests or the head monks are doing in these different schools. Certainly the samurai are doing 10 times over. They're looking for any opportunity to display their power and strength and take over, right? So any excuse they can manufacture. So he's cautioning Shijokingo, don't put yourself in their crosshairs, but you're there. So you can't deny that you're there. Just adopt a very servile position and be humble, and maybe you'll go unnoticed, right? Probably you are well aware of it, but let me cite the Buddha's prediction about what the latter age will be like, our age. In essence, he states, quote, "It will be a muddied age in which even sages will find it difficult to live. They will be like stones in the great fire, which for a while seem to endure the heat, but finally char and crumble into ashes. Worthy persons will advocate the 5 constant virtues, but they themselves will find it hard to practice them. Thus the saying goes, quote, 'Do not remain in the seat of honor too long,' end quote." In other words, when you get praise, accept it graciously, but then move on. Don't walk around with that praise on your shoulder like it's meaningful, because people will immediately turn on you. And isn't that our world? "Many people have plotted to undo you, but you have avoided their intrigues and emerged victorious. Should you lose your composure now and fall into their trap, you will be, as people say, like a boatman who rows his boat with all his might only to have it capsize just before he reaches the shore, or like a person who is served no hot water at the end of his meal." Obviously not so important or relatable to us today. "While you are in your Lord's residence, if you stay in the room assigned to you, nothing will happen, but on your way to work at dawn or returning from it at dusk, your enemies are bound to be lying in wait for you. Also be very careful in and around your house in case someone should be hiding beside the double doors, inside the family sanctuary, under the floor, or in the space above the ceiling. This time your foes will use even more cunning in their plots than before." In other words, they won't rely on these machinations of people's attitudes. They're going to strike violently. In the end, no one will be more dependable in an emergency than the night watchman of Egara in Kamakura. However disagreeable it may be to you, you should associate with them amicably. So another piece of political advice from Nichiren. Is very concerned about Shijo Kingo, especially knowing that he's hot-tempered. He wants to make sure that Shijo Kingo isn't thinking as an arrogant samurai would, is like, if they try anything, I'll just, right? Who does that sound like? Anyway, we got plenty of movie references for that in our cultural times, right? Yoshitsune found it utterly impossible to defeat the Heike until he won Shigeyoshi over to his side, and in that way vanquished the rival clan. The shogun, Minamoto no Yoritomi, sought to take revenge on Osada for his father's death, but he would not behead the murderer until he had conquered the Heike, or Heike. It is even more vital that you ally yourself with your 4-night watchmen. The dwellings they had earned by risking their lives were confiscated by their lord because of the Lotus Sutra, and more directly because of Nichiren. Be considerate of those who believe in Nichiren and the Lotus Sutra, no matter what they may have done in the past. Moreover, if they frequent your house, your enemies will be afraid to attack you at night. It is not as if they were trying to avenge their father's murder. Certainly, they do not want their plot to come out into the open. So now they're afraid that the backfire from their attempt will come to haunt them. So now they're doubly afraid and angry, right? Against those who seek to avoid the eyes of others, there are no warriors as dependable as they are. Always maintain friendly relations with them. But since you are hot-tempered by nature, there it is again, you might not take my advice. In that case, it will be beyond the powers of my meditations to save you. So, damn it, Shijo, calm down. This is not the time. Ryuzobo and your elder brother plotted evil against you. Therefore, the heavenly deities so contrived it that the situation would develop exactly as you wished. Then, how can you now dare to go against the wish of the heavenly deities? Even if you had accumulated 1,000 or 10,000 treasures, of what use would they be if your Lord should forsake you? He already looks to you as if you were his own parent, following you as water follows the shape of its container, longing for you as a calf longs for its mother, and relying on you as an elderly person relies on his staff. Is not his regard for you due to the aid of the Lotus Sutra? How envious your fellow retainers must be! You must hurry and talk with these 4 men and report to me how the matter goes. Then I will fervently meditate to the heavenly deities for your protection. I have already informed them of how deeply you grieve over your deceased father and mother. They will surely receive the utmost consideration in the presence of Shakyamuni Buddha. Okay, I'm going to pause here. A couple more pages to go. Yeah, we'll finish this next time. So, do I need to recap anything? I think I interrupted enough times. Ask me in the comments if I missed something that you heard and was either confusing or pointing to something that I didn't talk about. Let me know. This is a Sangha. We all learn together. So give me your input. Otherwise, I think there are some very important lessons in this for our world today and what we're dealing with. And I think that I would be safe to interpret this and to say to you that since we are all practitioners of MyoHoRenGeKyo, the Lotus Sutra, that we will, should I say, enjoy, we will inculcate, we will instantiate protections for our life path many of which we won't even know about. People who might, in this course of events, come into our lives to take advantage of us or to harm our loved ones or our possessions or anything like that, will karmically be less likely to intrude into our life condition, and we'll never know it. But then there'll be more obvious examples that we'll experience in our daily life, our relationships, our jobs, what have you. So I think it's important for us to remain conscious and thankful of that aspect of our lives, even when things don't go our way. That is even more of a reminder that we need to redouble our resolute mind. And while we do that, because we talk about that a lot, not flip the other way. And I think this is the big lesson here in this Go Show so far, anyway. That we don't let it go to our heads, so to speak, which is an odd thing to say about a mental practice, but our mental self-awareness is much bigger than this head. Again, that limitation of perception of body, right? So don't let it go to this human head that's suddenly you have a MyoHoRenGeKyo cape on and you're protected from everything. That would be very unreasonable and an illusion of a different sort that would leave you extremely vulnerable to attack. You'd be making yourself a target. So don't be a target. And this is why Buddhism always talks about having a calm resolve, because your resolve in MyoHoRenGeKyo is everything. And if you're to walk the Bodhisattva path to the Buddha way, then that means that you're an exemplar. You're an example of this enlightened path. And that enlightened path isn't boastful. It isn't arrogant. It simply is liberated of suffering. So be an example of that. Be more calm. Be more reserved. With conviction. That's the difference. Having conviction doesn't mean you're boastful or arrogant or powerful. Your power comes from the Dharma, the recognition of this amazing play, this process of life that includes the scorpion as well as the albatross, right? And the great eagles and hawks and all of the things that insert inspiration here, you know. Okay, so I can't wait till part 2. I am hopeful you'll be here. Don't forget to download the podcast, the Buddhahood podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, so you can listen to these I just take the audio off these videos and put them on the podcast, so you won't miss a thing. Anyway, take care of your health, take care of your practice. Namo MyoHoRenGeKyo. See you in the next one. Bye.